Should people over 50 be so concerned with training their legs that they continue to do squats even though their knees, lower back, and ankles hurt? I don't think so. And it's about time you start rethinking your leg training. What's up, everybody? This is Dev, Iron Father, and I am coming at y'all today I'm going to do a video a little bit different than some of my fitness videos. I'm just going to do this one more like I do my roundtables and my longer form videos where we talk about fatherhood, because this one I wanted to apply to everyone when it comes to fitness, not just the Iron Fathers, but some of you Iron women out there as well, because I want to talk to those who are pushing 50, maybe even over 50, and you might even be a little bit younger, and maybe you're beginning to have some knee issues, lower back issues. And if you've been in the gym any number of years, you're still trying to figure out, should I continue squatting, bench pressing, deadlifting, even though it's beginning to hurt? This question came from a guy who is pushing 50 years old, and he has some good totals up under his belt when we look at the three big lifts of the squat, the deadlift, and the bench press. However, what's the point now at pushing 50 to still be trying to chase being the strongest guy in the gym? At my age of 55, and as he's seeing getting to be 50, it's like, well, do you necessarily need to be the biggest guy in the gym or the strongest guy in the gym when actually it kind of feels good to be the oldest guy in the gym that's actually still looking pretty good and in shape? And that's certainly the case that he's in. And so now, after decades, really, 30 years of putting some heavy slag on his back in terms of squatting, from picking things up off the floor, in addition to his military job, now it's kind of like, is it really necessary to really put in all that work in terms of, in this case, a barbell squat? And so we're not going to talk so much about the deadlift, although some of the things may be applicable to the deadlift and the bench press as well, if you have bad shoulders and elbows. But we're going to focus on the squat because he asked, do I still need to worry about doing that barbell squat, putting that heavy bar on my back and being focused on getting a decent depth? Now, recently I posted up an older video of my client doing Smith machine squats, and that was something I never wanted to do. Growing up, you don't do Smith machine squats. Well, people don't do that in a fixed range of motion on a fixed path of the bar. Well, it can actually have a good point because number one, it may force you to use less weight, and number two, it may also allow you to be able to come completely down in that range of motion, actually giving you a chance to flex and extend the quad, which actually is what growth is all about. The reason why we do a complete range of motion, we try to go ahead and get out the extension and the flexion. That's what a rep is all about, unless we're talking about isometric holds, and that's something totally different. But it is that flexion and that extension. It is that eccentric and that concentric portion of the exercise. That's why we perform a rep. So particularly in the squat, folks crack me up. No one wants to go, a quarter squat on the bench press, although some of you probably do. And we wouldn't necessarily count a pull up if somebody just came up a little bit and then they stopped a little bit. That's it. But yet on the squat, well, we all probably be like, yeah, that was close. It was almost down all the way to the ground. And yes, I give mad props to the people who are shaped for the squat. They may not have a long femur. They may have a long torso. On top of that, long torso, relatively short femur, and they can squat for days, come down calf to butt. If you're like me, well, I have a pretty long femur. And I know the gentleman who asked me this question has a very long femur as well. Therefore, quad development is always something that we're all are chasing like that. And a lot of times squats end up becoming more of a lower back exercise where the low back gets fatigued and the glutes get hit more than anything else. And your quads, well, it almost feels like an afterthought. For the squat for me, I can't think of really, over my lifting career that if I did some 20 rep squats where I focused on form and technique, I would be sore from that. But if I did some, let's say 6 rep, even 8 rep squats, I really wouldn't be sore. My quads wouldn't be sore. My lower back would be thrashed. My knees might ache. So then I have to wonder, and my glutes may or may not be sore, but I really have to lighten the weight up and focus on coming completely rock bottom in order to get a quad soreness. And I think that's probably how it is for you as well. But is that necessary for you to do once you get to be around 50 years old? I think the answer is, well, as always, when it comes to this game, it depends. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I have a client who's 60 years old and he plans to compete in more powerlifting events. So in his case, then yes, coming all the way down per powerlifting, whatever federation he's going to end up competing in, whatever those rules are, being able to drop all the way down or at least below parallel, pausing, and then coming up, that is important. So we want to practice that in the weight room. That needs to be inside his program. But what if you're not competing? Then I think we need to ask the question, why squat in the first place? Now, before the I love the squat folks come on out with their torches and get ready to burn the channel down, understand, and as I told this gentleman, I am still a huge proponent of the movement pattern of the squat. I think whether we're talking overhead press, barbell squat, even the deadlift, the movement pattern is something that we still should have in our program. But is it necessary for our egos to actually get in the way? And that's why this conversation is really more toward guys in this case, because we are the ones that say, man, you know what? My squat form looks like Tom Platz. My squat form looks like Ronnie Coleman with 800 on the back, with 135 though. But yeah, once I start probably getting up to 225, 315, for some folks 415, then those squats don't come all the way down like I would like them to. And in that case, when that happens, understand you're likely doing more damage than you're doing a benefit for your leg growth. And certainly you're not helping out your lower back or your glutes as well. In the case of me, and it's probably the likelihood for you, as well as I've seen with many of my clients, you can only continue to do that maybe for 3 or 4 workouts. Usually the older the client, the less length of time that they can do it. So that means while you may be able to squat heavy and maybe you know in our minds we always think we're coming down to parallel or below parallel, and then you have someone record you and you're like, man, I just did like a quarter squat there. But in my mind, especially the heavier that weight got, I was like, oh, I think I'm coming all the way down. And you look at it and it's like, nah, I was kind of nowhere near parallel on that one. And so that's why, first of all, it's good to have a good coach, someone to check your form and your proper technique, but it's also good to record yourself as well to really see how far you're coming down. And if you're not coming down far enough, lighten that weight up. But in this case, and this is what I had one client do who was in his 20s, we lighten the weight up. I want you to focus on depth, lighten the weight up. But for my clients that are 50 and over that are not competing, I have to ask the question, do they really need to have the squat in their program? In most cases, the answer is no, at least not the traditional barbell squat. So here are some alternatives. Certainly, I love the front-facing hack squat. I think that is a great alternative. It's in a fixed path, similar to what you would have with a Smith machine squat, but you get a chance to lighten the weight up. And again, we're looking for you to come down all the way to really extend the quad. Try to get down as low as you can possibly go without knee pain, and then boop, pop it on back up. A pause at the bottom is even better, but sometimes that's a little bit too much to ask. Depending on your body type, you may be able to have your feet out a little wider. That's going to make it a little bit more hip dominant. But if you really want to get proper flexion of the quads, what you would do is actually have your feet a little closer together. Now, depending on how your feet naturally go, for some of you, you may have feet that angle out. That's me. For some of you, when you walk, your feet look like this. For some of you, when you probably walk, your feet may even look like this. But go with your natural pattern. And that way, get into the movement and enjoy it for every ounce that it is. The reason why I put it that way is because oftentimes when you go heavy, and it can even be on a machine, but when you go heavy on that barbell squat, you aren't really getting everything out of the movement because you're dipping down and dropping down so fast, and then you're popping back up quickly to hurry up and get out of that whole position. So what I want you to do is think about some alternatives. Again, we have the hack squat as an alternative, especially the front-facing hack squat. The leg press, again, is an alternative. Now, this one I'm a little bit hesitant to recommend because, it's almost similar to the barbell squat where folks will go up there, don't you hate you up there working out and you like, oh, I need a couple more 45s for my barbell row. And then you look over there and it's somebody that they have like 15, 45-pound plates on the leg press, and then they get up under there, they unlock it, and then they're like, whoosha, 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 whoosha. They're no different than the person that loads 405 on the barbell squat, and then they just go, wonk, 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 wonk. That's the extent of their range of motion. Don't be that person, oftentimes that guy. Don't be that one that does that. Instead, go with the leg press. But when you go with the leg press, same principle. Lighten the weight up. Focus on bringing it all the way down, even to where your knees are coming up to your ears if necessary, depending again on your body type. Point is, you want to get those knees, that knee flexion all the way. And then when you press up, extending the leg, extending the knee. That's going to take those quads to the full range of motion. And that's how you get a little bit of growth. I say a little bit because if you got chicken legs like me, it's all hard to get. But then on the other hand, for those of us who are in the chicken leg church, this really goes to show that we probably need to lighten the weight up even more in order to go through a full range of motion. Don't listen to the people that say, oh, if you got skinny legs, you're just not squatting heavy enough. Don't listen to those people because most of them don't know what they're talking about. Many people, especially folks who already have great legs from the time they went on ahead and started, squatting to use the pot, if their legs are already pretty well big and their calves are big, you might not want to listen to their training secrets and ask them, well, why do you feel that way? And you'll find in most cases, they never really had to work for leg growth. But when you look at somebody with chickens, and even though they may not have the muscle mass on their legs, but if you start looking at a little bit of definition and you can see that there has been some muscle growth there, that's something to still be proud of. But this leads me to probably what's the most important part of all of this. This is for those who still want to work and do the movement bilaterally. But what if you want to now work it unilaterally, one leg at a time? I think this is now where the person over 50 can get the best and the most benefit from their leg training. Now focus on those Bulgarian split squats. Focus on the lunge. Quite honestly, this is where the women actually have the guys beat because the ladies will do it more for their glutes more than anything else. But men, this is where we also need to take some of their, I'll say, training tips or watching how they train for their glutes. And we need to incorporate that, again, especially if you're over 50. Why? Number one, you don't necessarily get the spinal compression of the bar down there, but you can still give your legs a great workout. Yes, you're going to work your glutes a lot. And yes, you may sometimes feel like I'm not using a lot of weight. But understand, if you do a leg press, try a leg press with just one leg, unilaterally at one time, bringing it all the way down. And again, well, I'm not going to say again in this case, because I haven't talked about the SI joint. As a man who's having some problems with his now, I can tell you that SI joint, because, you look at everything that attaches to it. Let's just say this mic is the SI joint. And now you figure every time you move, even back and forth, you don't want this thing twisting. And you don't want it, if it could move and rock this way, that's something else you don't want because you're going to definitely feel that eventually. And when you're younger, you may not feel it in your 20s or maybe even your early 30s, but you will in your 40s and 50s and 60s. And so when you look at that musculature and you look at the things that may aggravate it, this is where now strengthening up muscles on this side of your body, muscles on this side of your body. Now it gives you an opportunity to be a much more well-rounded trainee instead of always working bilaterally and you end up masking weaknesses. I think a lot of you can probably understand this if you've been in the gym long enough with the bench press. Whenever you're working with a barbell bench press, you can mask your weakness because when you're pressing, and if your right arm is a little bit weaker than your left arm, then you still might be able to gut it up enough. And you usually figure this out right at about the same time you're getting onto that last rep. And it's hard to tell sometimes which one. It's like, I know my right always just gives out a little bit, but you get it up and you stop. But in the case of now with dumbbells, you get dumbbells, you might find you stop 2 reps shorter on your right arm than on your left arm. And so sometimes, and most people don't have pecs that are much larger than, on one side than the other, although I'm sure there's some do. But you think about now, the one attachment you do have, your SI joint, that's going to be one area where certainly if you have a muscle imbalance and now you have your spine that goes ahead and runs down there too, imagine what that is also going to do with your spine. And now we see why, especially when you start getting down into maybe performing triples, or you start getting into some real heavy weights, that heavy weight now causes aggravation. Now you end up getting that low back pain. And definitely, if we're talking about a barbell squat, where you come down, and I know one of the things I would do when I recorded myself, I would shift just ever so slightly when I came up out of the hole. And now that I am in even PT for my own glutes, what am I realizing? My right glute is much weaker than my left glute. There was some compensation that was going on. It's been going on in my body for decades. So this is a lesson that I'm even still learning. And so another thing that you can also do is, yes, certainly practice your glute training. Again, ladies do this very well. Many of us guys do not. The barbell squat really automatically does this, especially for most people that may not necessarily be perfect for the barbell squat. They may have a little bit of a forward lean when they do so. I don't think a lot of people get enough glute activation on the other end because they don't come down far enough. But even if you drop down with a light enough weight, yeah, your glutes get hammered pretty well. But there are better ways that your glutes can get hammered. Include that in your training. My point is, many times we perform the barbell squat because we think that it's all about building our quads. But when you really look at what the barbell squat actually does and how taxing it can be to your overall body, there are a lot of muscles that get activated. There are a lot of muscles that, can be the weak spots in your body that you don't even realize that get masked from performing that. And so when you start splitting it up and you do Bulgarian split squats, you do lunges, you learn a pistol squat, even if you do a leg press, there are so many other things now that you may find that, okay, these are the areas that I'm actually weak in. The barbell squat was masking these, and you can still actually get a great leg workout. And if you think about it, and now you may find you're actually stronger and you feel better when you do it than ever before. That's the goal of all of this. The goal is to be healthy enough to continue pushing well into your 60s and 70s. I don't want you to be focused on trying to constantly get stronger and stronger and stronger into your 60s and 70s. And in the meantime, your mobility lessens. You now have a lot of pain. But you're that guy, you got all the knee wraps, you got everything wrapped so tightly when you go in there, you look pretty impressive squatting 315, maybe even 405. But you know doggone well when you get ready to walk down the stairs, not because your legs are shot and you know how it is when you get the shaky wakies and your quads and stuff are shaking when you walk down the stairs, but you got the shaky wakies because your knees hurt. So you kind of going down, one leg at a time because your knees hurt now because when you were squatting, it was in so much pain. You were probably looking for the elevator for the next few days. I want you to be the person that can squat all the way down with a light weight and feel great. And if you just are slow, if you have to go back down, I don't care if you have to go back down to 95 pounds and then just come up in 10-pound increments, 5 on each side, or if your gym is good enough to have 2.5s, 5 pounds overall. The goal is not to chase the weight. The goal is to chase quality reps. Let me say that again. The goal is not to chase the weight. The goal is to chase quality reps. That's if you want to keep the barbell squat in there. If you do not, don't hesitate to pull it out, take it out of your program for a little while, focus on those single leg movements. I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, my legs got so small once I started, performing Bulgarian split squats. My legs got so small when I started doing, front facing hack squats or, other exercises, no longer the barbell squat. You're probably going to find, wow, I went back to the barbell squat, but I feel so much better. My lower back feels better because I'm no longer compensating. I'm no longer twisting just a little bit when I get up maybe to the top or I try to come up out the hole. I'm finding that now my glutes are much more activated now. They feel a lot more solid. And you know what? I don't feel like I'm always just one rep short of injury. That's how the old people train. That's how the older people train, to be mobile and to be strong enough well into their 50s, 60s, and 70s. instead of just chasing the weight now and doing some ego lifting. We're past that. So that's the one for today. If you want a program, hey, we're starting the next quarter of this year. So let's get it together. Sign up with me now. More than willing to help. Let me prepare you for your journey for the next year. Don't want to leave without saying that. If you need a program, one that is going to have enough in there to help your mobility, as well as focus on those quality reps. And if you don't know how to put something together, you're tired of trying to figure it out, you're struggling with your consistency, definitely let me know. Certainly like and subscribe, share this video with someone else, and DM me or email me at joinironfather@gmail.com. Go ahead and sign up for a consultation. Again, this is not just for the guys. This is for the ladies as well. Now, if we want to talk about some of the other things in terms of relationship, guys, I got you. But when it comes to building a great physique, hey, I'm all about men and women, because when it comes to relationships, women love to have a great body to catch a man. And I know you guys love to have a great body in order to catch a woman as well. So let me just help bring people together. All right, until next time, y'all. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.